Very pleased to have with us on the program right now NRA past president Sandy Froman. How you doing, Sandy?
I am great, Cam. It's really wonderful to be on the show again. I've missed you.
I've missed you too. It's great to talk to you this evening. We've got so much to talk about, actually. I got to ask you first off, before we get to Paul Helmke's latest bloviating at the Huffington Post, I ran across a story today that said HSUS has pumped $250,000 into the Prop 109 fight in Arizona, the Right to Hunt and Fish Amendment. Now, Sandy, HSUS, they say all the time that they're not anti-hunting. So why is it that they're fighting so hard to block this constitutional amendment protecting the right to hunt and fish in Arizona?
Well, that is a very, very good question, Cam, and the answer is that when they say they're not against hunting, they're lying. They're not telling the truth. As a matter of fact, Wayne Pacell, their president, has been quoting as saying if they could stop hunting overnight, they would do it. They would do away with all hunting in America. And I think a lot of hunters don't really realize what a serious threat that the Humane Society of the United States is to our hunting rights and our shooting rights as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, here we are a week and a day before Election Day, Sandy. Do you feel cautiously optimistic about the chances for Prop 109?
Well, we're working really hard. NRA's put a lot of resources into this, making sure that Prop 109 passes. It's already, basically, there are constitutional hunting right amendments in 10 states. There are another 3 states right now coming up on November 2nd that are going to be voting on this. So I hope Arizona voters, I hope Arizona hunters, I hope Arizona gun owners go to the polls and vote yes on Prop 109. This scare tactics that HSUS has employed are just a lie, and they're basically trying to frighten people into voting no on this, when what will happen with Prop 109 is our traditional rights to hunt and fish in Arizona will be preserved.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming up with all kinds of crazy stuff. I saw last week one of their attacks was that the NRA doesn't want voters to be in charge or to have a say in wildlife management, which is why you're asking voters to go to the polls next week and vote on Prop 109. I mean, I don't get that line of argument at all. They don't respect the voters, so they're asking the voters to go vote on this initiative. They also say that this is going to leave the decisions in the hands of the legislatures. And, Sandy, this is going to take the decision-making out of the hands of anti-hunting extremists like HSUS and leave it in the hands of wildlife managers.
That's right, wildlife managers and biologists, and we're going to have sound science determining wildlife conservation issues, which is what everyone realizes is the most healthy thing for wildlife. I mean, basically, the Arizona Game and Fish Commission supports this. The governor supports it. Every Republican member of the legislature voted in favor of this. We even have retired game and fish employees, who have no axe to grind at all, who are saying this would be very good for hunting in Arizona and wildlife management and conservation in Arizona. And a lot of people I've talked to about it can say, well, I'm not a hunter, so why should I vote for this? And I say to them, do you enjoy looking at Arizona's diverse wildlife population? Are you a bird watcher? Do you like to hike? Do you like looking at the animals out there? Well, if you do, you should vote in favor of it, because it's the hunters that pay to make sure that we have good conservation and wildlife management in the state. And this will encourage a lot more wildlife habitat, a lot more good management of the wildlife populations for everybody to enjoy, not just the hunters.
Yeah. All right. So, and I hope that Prop 109 passes. I know we're going to be covering that in our election night coverage, and we'll be talking about it between now and then. But I've got to ask you, Sandy, about this column that Paul Helmke of the Brady campaign wrote. Appeared on the Huffington Post today. He says, if Democrats want to know what women want this election season, I encourage their campaign gurus to start talking about an issue that has strong, consistent support from women of all ages, races, and locations. Gun control. In other words, Sandy, doggone it, why aren't more of these Democrats and Democratic candidates pushing gun control? It's such a winner among female voters.
We know the answer to that, don't we, Cam? Because it's a big loser of an issue. And the Democrats have learned that lesson the hard way. And whatever Paul Helmke wants, at least the Democrats who are out there running for office are smart enough to know that is a loser for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are seeing in some states like Pennsylvania and Illinois, candidates running pro-gun control ads, accusing their opponents of, doing all kinds of nefarious things when in essence they were supporting Second Amendment rights. So there are some politicians that are trying to make this an issue, which is weird because, Sandy, back in 2004, I remember John Kerry going goose hunting, trying to claim that, he had never or always been a consistent supporter of the Second Amendment. That clearly didn't work. And so now I guess, maybe everything old is starting to become new again, and we are seeing candidates like Joe Sestak and Pat Quinn in Illinois, run as pro-gun control candidates. I just don't see that being a winning issue in this country for men or women.
No, it's not a winning issue. And, there was a time many, many years ago, during the Clinton administration where they could come out and make that pitch. But now I think people have learned, particularly the Democrats, that is not a winning issue for them. And now what's really funny, and I've seen it all over the country, is candidates, Republicans versus Democrats, both candidates will try to show how much in favor of the Second Amendment they are. I mean, gosh, even President Obama said, he believed in the Second Amendment. Now, believing in it and understanding what it means and respecting it are different things. But I just don't think that's a winning issue. I think most bright Democrats understand that, and they're not making it part of their campaign. I mean, let's face it, Cam, jobs and the economy are the big issues in this election. Guns are there, too, and obviously one of the things that NRA does is we make sure our members are well educated about the Second Amendment issues. But there are a lot of other big issues that voters are looking at, including NRA members.
Absolutely. I'm curious, Eddie, because I'm guessing you talk to a lot of female gun owners and women who are interested in becoming gun owners. We've seen such I think a incredible increase in the number of women gun owners, women hunters, women who are getting their concealed carry license over the past few years. To me, I know Paul Humke says, we did this survey back in April and 600 registered voters. We saw, 63% of women said that they wouldn't vote for a candidate who supported a fewer gun control laws on the books. But the people that you're talking to, and granted, I know you're NRA past president, Sandy Froman, everybody knows where you're coming from, but are you hearing this a lot, or are you hearing women say, I want to be able to protect myself? I don't think that these laws have worked that well.
Well, obviously, Paul Helmke and I don't talk to the same group of women. I mean, I'm talking to women, and I'm not necessarily talking to just NRA members either. I speak a lot in groups that are, not related necessarily to the gun issue. Mm-hmm. And women are enthusiastically supportive of the more liberalization of firearms laws in this country. They understand that, this is pro-security for them. I mean, Helmke talks about the fact that women are concerned about their security, and they want increased security from gun violence for their families and communities. Well, you know how you get increased security from gun violence for your families and your communities is to arm yourself, to get trained, and to be prepared to defend your families and your communities.
That's right.
And most women understand that. I mean, they've seen it, they understand it, they're curious about it, they ask a lot of questions. I am just so thrilled at how I'm getting many, many more questions from women in recent years than I did when I first got involved with the NRA 19 years ago. And I think it's a really healthy thing. I think it's a good thing. I think the passage of concealed carry in so many states, the Castle Doctrine laws, the parking lot bills, people are beginning to understand that they have these rights. They want to exercise them, and it's a very common and healthy and wholesome aspect of the changes in the Second Amendment community.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example of this is, we had our Hero of the Day story tonight, which featured a off-duty NYPD officer who had her privately owned a firearm with her at the beauty parlor when she and the other customers were the victim of an armed robbery. Look, clearly this guy in New York City thought this was a perfect crime. Go into a beauty salon. Who on earth is going to be able to prevent him from doing exactly what he wanted? He didn't realize that one of the customers there would have their firearm. women, Sandy, and you know this far more than I do, women who are, working late at night, walking to their car in the parking lot, women who may not live in the best neighborhood, women who live in great neighborhoods, Sandy, are seen by criminals as easy targets. You were a victim of this yourself.
Absolutely, Cam. And, I'm really offended by this idea that women should be so afraid of firearms that they should want to ban everyone from having one.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very low opinion of women. Women are strong. I mean, think about the frontier women who, armed only with their 30-30 ranch rifle, they could keep the fox out of the hen house. They could, repel marauding bears or two-legged hostiles. I mean, they could put meat on the table. They didn't need any man around to help them. I mean, women are very strong, and they are very smart, and they can make these decisions for themselves. And I'm offended by this notion that women are too weak and too stupid to be able to learn how to use a gun effectively.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't mean to call Paul Humke a sexist, but it's kind of a sexist attitude, Sandy. I mean, it really is.
It is a very sexist attitude, absolutely.
Well, listen, I'm glad that more and more American women are refusing to be victims, that they are taking steps to protect themselves, and I think, again, in the years forward, this is going to continue to be a loser issue for any politician who wants to try to run perhaps outside of the deepest of the anti-gun districts in places like Chicago and Washington, D.C.
I agree, Cam, and I think at the very, in the final analysis, what it really shows is that their desperation, the level of their desperation to start bringing this back when it's been such a loser historically for them.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to see them doing it.
Well, I guess we'll see how things turn out on election night. Sandy, thank you again for coming on the program. Great getting a chance to talk with you, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cam.